You cannot do advanced pricing without advanced change management and change leadership.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
Man, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the inflationary relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving, and I run boot camps that help companies get paid more. Our guest today is the one and only Stephan Liozu. Here are 3 things you want to know about Stephan before we start. He is the Chief Value Officer at Zilliant. He's one of the few people I know that has a PhD in pricing. And by the way, he is the very first person I've ever seen that has the title Chief Value Officer. He got that at Thales. Welcome, Stephan. Whoa, almost messed that one up. Welcome, Stephan.
Thanks for having me again. Pleasure to be on your podcast.
It's going to be fun. Hey, so tell us about the title Chief Value Officer, just because I love that title.
Yeah, it's interesting because, at any point of time, you have 3 or 4 CVOs in the world. And right now, I'm one of them. Ibaka just named a CVO. You have 2 or 3 more. So we're now 5 or 6 in the world. But pretty much I had the title at Thales, and I wanted to keep it because it's really all about value. When you're in software, you know whether you're doing ROI calculations, business value assessments. But if every innovation and delivery, it's all about value. So I wanted to keep the CVO role and then really make sure that everything we do is about value, customer value.
Yeah. So I find it amazing that so many companies don't actually understand what value means to their customers, what value means to them.
Well, over the years, I've done quite a bit of pricing assessments. And when I do my interviews, my discovery interviews, I ask them, what does value mean to you? In any company, you get usually between 3 and 5 internal definitions of value, which make it super complicated. Financial value, business value, customer value, value is cheap, shareholder value, profit, value is profit or margin. And, at the end of the day, customer value is really at the bottom of the ranking.
It really is. And so do you see your role, pick any company, right? Not necessarily Zilliant, because Zilliant is a pricing company, but if you go back to Thales, do you see your role as making sure the internal workings of the company understand value, deliver value, and then capture value?
So in Thales, I was more an internal facing CVO, which means I didn't go out to customers and did my value selling, value prop, delivery. I was making sure that all the functions really focused on customer value. At Zilliant, I'm the opposite. I'm going out to the customer, make sure that we talk value to them, that we project the internal value to them, and we do beautiful business value assessments.
Yeah. And I would guess, it sounds almost like you're a salesperson when you think about going external to do value. At least that's the way I would think salespeople should behave.
That is correct. So more around sales enablement. So for example, I'm helping build a value playbook. As I mentioned, we are looking at business value assessments, automating these, but also in the product roadmap, make sure that everything we do brings differentiation and value, which is a huge change of mindset. So I remind everybody in Zilliant and in Thales that we're competing, and we're competing for the customer share wallet, which is the share of value that we can allocate to a vendor. And we got to be sharp. We got to be crisp and compelling.
Yeah. Just like every company has to be. So
right.
Yeah, it just makes sense. Hey, the reason I invited you on today is A, because I like you, but B, because,
nice.
You wrote a post the other day that I read on LinkedIn that was about the future of the role of pricing.
Right.
And it just struck me as a really interesting question, got me thinking a few interesting thoughts. And so I thought, hey, let's have Stephan on and have a conversation. Let's start with a quick overview. What did the article say?
Well, so, you know me, I've been for the past 10, 12 years in the pricing profession and try to shake things up in there and really move the profession to a more robust, growing profession. And, I've been puzzled that, it's not like we are, viral in essence in the go-to-market space. It's not like the pricing software companies are exploding in growth. Pricing is a transient profession. So I'm looking at all that situation and I'm like, well, where do we belong? What is the future for us? Because, we've been a scientific and quantitative function for many, many years. You look at in the 60s, we did regressions, and now we're talking about, neural network and AI and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not like we're booming. And it's puzzling to me. And I was wondering, where do we go next? Where is the pricing profession and the science going towards? Is it more AI? Is it more revenue intelligence? Is it more commercial excellence, analytics, pure analytics? Because, as a profession, as a standalone profession, it doesn't look like we're going to change anytime soon. So that was, I was writing that paper just to be a little bit controversial.
Yeah. As I thought about the problem after you wrote about it, my instantaneous reaction is there's a huge difference between B2B pricing and B2C pricing. Because in my view here, B2C, we have tons of data. We have tons of data analytics. In fact, we're probably not even thinking about what's value to the customer. We're thinking about what's the price elasticity and how do I do a promotion on Tuesday, right? And what do I think the results are going to be? And in B2B, we never do that.
Well, it's supposed to be in the optimization engine, but a fraction of companies in B2B do pricing the way it's supposed to be. Where you go to B2C because they're data rich and they have no choice to compete, then and they leverage the power of pricing much more. I would say in a deep manner, and it's really about revenue management. And typically you would see pricing folks, revenue management folks working very closely with category managers, marketing managers, product managers, where in the B2B world, we're still siloed into functions that really don't work well together. If they do have the pricing function. If they don't have a pricing function, then all that stuff doesn't happen. It's really, it's home cooking. It's like we say in French, bricolage.
So in B2C, and I'm going to drop this one in just a second. In the world of B2C, it feels like the future of pricing is pretty obvious, right? It is truly data analytics. It's big data. It's understanding AI and what you're going to be able to do with AI. And so it feels like it has a clear home there. Now, in the world of B2B, that's absolutely not true, right? It just does not feel like it has a home any place in B2B today.
Well, I think, again, when you look at the advancements in business models in B2C, with direct-to-consumer model, with e-commerce, they just have no choice to integrate all the functions. So the marketing analytics works with the pricing analytics, which works with the sales analytics, and then all the supply chain fully integrated. And, I think we went through a revolution in the last 10 years around the business models and the power of data. In the B2B, we're not there yet. Yes, some companies are doing a bit of D2C, direct to consumer. Some e-commerce, is popping up, but it's very traditional way of doing business. And unfortunately, that integration, it doesn't exist. So you have very advanced functions like supply chain, maybe business intelligence. And then you have other functions in the go-to-market that are very manual. Pricing, if it's not using software, it's going to be Excel and manual. A lot of times selling is manual. I mean, you look at the McKinsey number, only 30% of sales is automated in B2B. It's crazy. So then you can't leverage the analytics much. And the maturity is not there. So I think we need to think in terms of integration and alignment of all the blocks of the go-to-market.
Yeah, it feels to me like part of the problem in B2B is there isn't a standard customer, right? So the thing in B2C, which we see so often, is first off, there's thousands and thousands of buyers.
Right.
We tend to use take it or leave it pricing. So we set a price and they buy it or they don't buy it. And in the world of B2B, it feels like every customer is different. We have salespeople negotiating individual prices with each customer. And so it's just so hard to say, here's what value means, or here's the price point we're going to set. It's really, what's the process we use to capture the most of what that customer is willing to pay?
Right. But, the fundamental issue that I see here, and I'll be very honest with you, Mark, is I've worked with dozens and dozens of companies, and I've written proposals, and they just don't do customer segmentation. I mean, so at the end of the day is everybody gets the same, or it's customer by customer. And I think in the B2B world, it's a disease, and I talk to many companies, which think that we're doing segmentation, but they're doing firmographic segmentation, market segmentation, product segmentation. And, at the end of the day, that creates the problem that you're saying. It's not segment driven. It's too one-to-one instead of one-to-many. And I think you can't leverage, the one-to-one. It's not scalable.
Right. Which is where I think the problem comes in with the role of pricing, right? It's the fact that we want to play a role in helping understand value, but we can't be involved in every deal. We can't be involved in every customer.
Yeah, but the issue is, we know what we need to do. We know about segmentation. We know about elasticity. We know about value-based pricing. The other functions don't know. So you go to a marketing team and you ask them, hey, where's my segmentation? And you look at the segmentation. And if you're a well-educated pricing person, you're going to look at this and say, wow, that's great, but this is an account segmentation, ABC. There's not much I can do here, unless I'm going to do pricing based on the size of the account, which is great, but it's not like the ultimate goal. So, when I train about pricing and value-based pricing, I think a lot of what I train about is outside of pricing. And it's a conundrum because really segmentation is part of marketing and value-based selling is part of sales, but we have to tell them what to do in order for us to do good pricing. And this is why in the paper I was writing, is it more of a commercial excellence approach? Is that more revenue excellence? Because pricing itself is right now is not really integrated in other functions.
Yeah. So first off, I have to say, I agree with you 100% on the training of pricing story, right? In fact, for so long, I've been trying to figure out how to get away from saying the word pricing and just saying, look, I teach value, but nobody cares. And so you have to say, I teach pricing.
Right. Or you say value and pricing, this is what I do.
Yes. But given what you had just said in the role of pricing, the story that I think I like the best in the world of B2B, I first saw at Google, and that was they had internal pricing consultants. So they had a pricing department, but the pricing department went around to all the other departments in the company to help them understand pricing and value for each of those departments. And I think that's a phenomenal role.
So, this is in theory what center of excellence must do, right? So they are an internal consulting arm, and they're going in and training and doing projects internally. Unfortunately, the CEO and CFO sees this as a cost and not a profit center. And as soon as there is a cost cutting exercise, the COE, is cut. And we see that now. We see many companies cutting the center of excellence with lots of highly paid experts. And they're sending, they're decentralizing in the regions with very minimal expertise. So, but I agree with you in as far as integration of the skills and the functions, being able to reduce the budget that you would spend with consultants and all that good stuff. Having 3 or 4 or 5 full-time experts, can really accelerate things and make sure your commercial excellence projects, your value-based pricing projects, your pricing implementation projects are very successful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you rely on partners, you rely on implementation partners or consultants, and it's expensive.
Yeah. So I want to jump back to segmentation for just a second, if you don't mind. What do you do, or how do you teach people to do segmentation? Because this is a big topic.
It is. So I have a process that I design based on multiple projects. I've done about 2,000 segmentation projects, some of them in B2G, business to government, some in B2B, and then a few in SaaS, right? I think B2C is, moving towards personalization and micro segmentations because they have a huge amount of data. And I think there is no worries there. They don't survive if they don't do it, so they have to do it. But in the B2C, in the B2B world, I really go deep and bet myself with the teams and do that with them. I show them a methodology, and usually we do either an active customer segmentation, or we do a total customer segmentation with prospects and lost customers. It depends on the scope that we want to focus on, and then we just deploy it. The key here is to go all the way. And all the way means the execution of the segmentation in the service programs, in the cost to serve analysis, in the deployment of assets and resources and marketing. And that's usually where it gets very tricky, because you could give them a very good segmentation with, let's say, with 5 to 8 segments. But then you have to redesign some of the functions to be able to serve the customer based on what the segments require. And it's difficult. But it's totally doable. I usually spend 90 to 120 days doing that. And it does create a bit of friction. But it's more of a cultural thing than a business topic.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I find when I do segmentation with companies is I try not to do the here's your 7 segments. I try to do here's one segment. Keep doing what you're doing, but go chase this segment. Right. And after you've been successful, now we can go pick another one and go chase that one. But let's figure out how to handle one segment. Right.
I usually start with the opposites. I get a whiteboard and I say, well, okay, give me some value buyers. Who is really buying on value? Their partners, and then we list like maybe 15 accounts, 20 accounts, and then give me the opposite. Give me the kamikaze price buyers. The auctions guy, the closed envelope bids, like the crazy dudes who they want discount right away. And then we list about 20 of them. And you're right. You start with this and it becomes already a reality because you put names to the segments. And then you ease in, the rest. Sometimes you have different types of value buyers, technical or, service value buyers. And then the same with price buyer. You have strategic ones, you have opportunistic price buyer. Then we start dividing them. And I think the problem with segmentation is very theoretical. I think it's in the mind of people is they look at this and say, oh, I don't know how to do this, and until you show them the method and the right vocabulary, there's a lot of confusion between the classification criteria, qualifying criteria, segmentation criteria. People are totally lost because they've never done it before. So, but you're right. I think easing in the process and going step by step is the best approach.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Stephan, any words you'd like to share with us about the new role at Zilliant?
Oh, the role is exciting, because I've been doing transformations for 12 years. I've been helping all kinds of different companies really redesign their go-to-market and be, like you said, very value-oriented. And the heart of, this engine is software, because you can't do things manually forever. And if you want to industrialize your processes in pricing and value, you have to use an engine, right? And be able to touch all the business, if possible, or at least a large amount of the business. So I was always involved around software, and whether it's value-based pricing software, or monetization software, billing software, or optimization and price management software. but I actually never went in there. So I was fascinated with the power of software, and I also wanted to try to really understand why is the software space only $1 billion space when all the rest of the spaces are booming, right? Like CRM, ERP, procurement software, they're all exploding, and we're not. So I wanted to go behind the curtain and see, what's happening. What is the science all about? What do we mean by optimization? CPQ and the link between, one block and the other. So looking at end-to-end pricing, software, life cycle pricing. It's phenomenal. The power of the science is rather intimidating, but also shows a great opportunity for the future. Now, the next question, Mark, is why is the space not $20 billion?
I was about to ask you that.
Well, I've written many, many times about this, many times, and I keep writing it. And, I have a few papers coming out with PPS, and one of them is about convincing the C-suite, where I think we have not cracked the nut on how to convince the C-suite. We're not there yet.
So I'm going to share a quick story with you. When I was at National Semiconductor, I tried to get a new pricing system brought in, failed dramatically, right? But I would go around and say things like, look, we're going to get 5% return on this thing, right? I mean, this is huge. 5% of revenue is profit. This is huge. Nobody cares, right? I end up shifting jobs. I'm over at Maxim Semiconductor running pricing over there. And instead of walking in and saying, hey, we're going to do 5% return, it's walking around to every single department, asking them, what are the pricing problems you see, articulating the problems, quantifying the value if we could solve those problems, taking that to the C-suite. And then they're like, oh, this is real money. Yes, we'll go get one of those. Right?
Yeah. So I hear you. And every company requires a different story. And that's a little bit of the complication. Working in software now with many prospects, I ask them the pains and the challenges. They're all different. So that means you have to tailor a story for every customer and prospect. And then you have different styles of CFO and CEO. Some are techie oriented, some are more business oriented. But generally speaking, I would say, when you mention pricing and pricing tech, it creates a lot of anxieties. And, I think you get that different look from the C-suite saying, yeah, do I want to mess up my pricing now? Right? Do I want to upset my customers? And the problem is, all they read in the news is, issues with dynamic pricing, gouging, failures, customer backslash, or rebellions. And I think we haven't yet addressed the risk management aspect of pricing and reduce the anxiety by showing implementations that work, the ability to demonstrate the value that's realized, which I think we don't do a good job at. And it's tricky, as you know, Mark, because in the margin, many things move. Yeah. And I think you got to be able to show, well, here's my margin bridge. Here's a pure effect of pricing. And not everybody does this. And the simple reason for that, Mark, is because pricing people are geeks. They're not storytellers.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and so not only are CEOs afraid to upset customers, but they're going to upset salespeople. They're going to upset the marketing team. They're going to upset the operations team. It's like everybody cares about pricing. Nobody seems to truly own it.
But it goes back to what you were saying before. If you use the word value, they don't get it. If you use the word pricing, they run away. Yeah. They don't want to hear it. So for the past 10 years, I've tried to come up with a new word. Is it revenue management? I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish we could coin a new term, right?
That resonated with people. Absolutely. So, hey, Stephan, we are running out of time, but let me ask you the final question. What's one piece of pricing advice you would give our listeners that you think could have a big impact on their business?
Well, and the number one thing that I realized, and I knew it before, but I really realize even more now, is you cannot do advanced pricing without advanced change management and change leadership. I knew that for sure before I started working in software. I know it now tenfold because I'm in it. And pricing professionals should become certified change manager. It should not be an option.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely true statement, right? Because if we're going to change pricing in a company, we touch so many different departments, as we just talked about. Everybody cares. So you have to be knowledgeable or experienced in change management.
Right.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Stephan, thank you so much for your time today. If anybody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
The best way is LinkedIn. And the second best way is stephanliozu.com. And then you have my contact information, all my papers, comics, and the links to the book. So, one or the other.
Excellent. And to our listeners, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, would you please leave us a rating and a review? And if you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or if your company needs help getting paid for what their true value is, feel free to email me, mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact.